Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into some pretty complex territory today.
Yeah, buckle up.
We're going to unpack Donald Trump's recent comments on the whole Russia-Ukraine war.
It's a messy situation.
It is. And as you know, his opinions, well, they could really shake things up on the global stage.
Okay.
Especially now, with him possibly jumping back into the political arena.
Absolutely.
This war has been going on for almost 2 years now, impacting, well, pretty much everything.
Global order.
Economies. And frankly, it's got a lot of people worried about an even bigger conflict.
Yeah, the stakes are high.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Trump basically called the war a disaster,
Right.
advocating for some kind of negotiated peace.
Seems reasonable on the surface.
It does. But then he goes and says that Ukraine isn't a real country.
Now that's a loaded statement.
It is. It kind of echoes, Russian propaganda.
It does, and that's where things get really interesting. I mean, on the one hand, he's all about peace.
Which, let's be honest, most people would agree is the goal.
Exactly. But repeating that kind of narrative, the one Russia pushes, it could really undermine Ukraine's fight for, independence.
Sovereignty.
Yeah, and it might even, in a way, legitimize what Russia's doing.
It's tricky, like walking a tightrope.
It is.
He's also been pretty critical of NATO, called it obsolete before. Now, some people say he's just pushing for reform, adapting to a new world order and all that.
Sure.
But could it also be, damaging to the alliance, especially now when they need to be united?
The timing is definitely, let's say, peculiar. I mean, remember what happened during his presidency?
Oh, yeah. Demanding more money from member states, questioning the whole U.S. commitment thing.
Exactly. It ruffled a lot of feathers.
So is he really all about reform? Or is he trying to, stir the pot? I guess we'll have to see.
We will.
And then there's, the Putin thing. Calling him a genius. It's not the first time he's complimented Putin's leadership style.
Right, and that raises some red flags.
Big ones, especially with everything going on right now. I mean, if we're talking about a second Trump administration, who knows what their relationship with Russia would look like?
The big question mark.
Huge. Would they cooperate, strike deals, or would it be all-out adversarial?
It's hard to say based on his past comments.
Totally unpredictable. And then he brings up this idea of America focusing inward.
America first.
Exactly, dealing with domestic issues instead of getting tangled up in foreign affairs.
It's a message that resonates with his base.
Absolutely. But what does that mean for, everything? The war in Ukraine, global stability, the whole 9 yards.
Well, it all goes back to that America first idea. There's definitely an appeal to focusing on your own backyard.
Yeah.
But stepping back from the global scene, especially now, it could leave a void, a dangerous one.
Right.
Think about it. What happens in the Middle East, Asia, if the U.S. isn't as involved anymore?
Good point. It's like a domino effect.
Exactly.
His stance on military aid to Ukraine is interesting, too.
How so?
Well, he questions, how much we're giving and what it's really for, but he hasn't said we should stop it altogether.
Ah, I see. So what's that tell us about potential U.S. support if he's back in charge?
Right. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, could we see less aid? Or maybe it'll be focused differently? Or, what if he ties it to concessions from Ukraine?
There are so many possibilities.
And any of them could completely change the course of the war.
Absolutely.
So taking everything we've talked about into account, what do you think will be the biggest impact of Trump's, approach on the world stage?
It's really tough to say for sure, but his words definitely hint at some major shifts in U.S. foreign policy.
Okay. Yeah.
His whole stance on NATO, Ukraine, Putin, it raises a lot of fundamental questions about, America's place in the world.
Yeah.
And how that role might change in the near future. The implications for global stability, for Western alliances, they're huge. It's something we need to keep a close eye on.
Absolutely. Definitely a lot to think about. So for everyone listening, what do you think will be the biggest consequence if Trump steps back onto the world stage? And how might that change the direction of the Russia-Ukraine war? It's a complex situation, and it's going to keep unfolding. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.